With threats to our nation waiting around every corner, adaptability is more important than ever. When conditions change without notice, quick strategic thinking is crucial. And with obstacles consistently impending, determination is essential in overcoming them. It's this willingness, decisiveness, and resilience that sets Marines apart. With our fighting spirit, we don't just fight battles, we win them. Marines are the constant our nation counts on to fight the unknown. And through adaptable problem solving, we do just that. Learn more at marines.com.
Today, we share our number 9 of our 11 best interviews of 2023. The focus in this episode is in the development of our players through utilizing data and technology. And joining us to discuss this topic was Billy Riebock, the offensive coordinator and quarterback coach at Midwestern State University. Coach Riebock explained how he gets a clear understanding of the offense he needs each year, as well as how he utilizes technology to become a better coach and teacher of his offense, and the workflow he puts together to create an expert system. This is another one full of useful information as you get ready to start your work on your 2024 systems.
No question, you're helping those young guys develop. And two, it's like, as humans, we all want to be loved. I don't care what anybody says. And when you're one of those guys, those developmental guys, and you're getting up for the early morning lift, you're going through that grind, I got to go do scout team and all that. And they do a great job. They accept their roles. That's part of being on the team. But this also allows you to take that time as a coach without sacrificing for the game plan or for that opponent that week, and put it into that player that might not be ready for, a year or two down the road, whatever. And I don't care. I've coached Division III football. I've coached Division I. When you're in these smaller levels, the retention, and the more you can keep these guys around, your chances of winning go up when you got seniors and juniors out on that football field. So if you can keep these guys around and have them ready, it'll benefit you in the end.
Billy Riebock is the offensive coordinator at Midwestern State in Texas. He's coached at all levels of college football, gaining valuable experience from the coaches he's worked with. Today he shares how he utilizes data in the offseason to help determine what the offense will look like for the coming season, and he goes into detail about how they utilize technology to create a better workflow and better teaching for their players. What you see on tape is a direct reflection of what you teach and how you teach. Video is important, but if you don't teach well, you're not going to like what you see on your video. First Down Playbook has been helping coaches teach better for 13 years. It allows you to present installs, playbooks, and practice cards in half the time with NFL quality. Coaching tools like video pairing, a player app, practice schedules, and wristband sheets have made First Down Playbook a program management system with everything in one place. If you're in a position of leadership with your football program, receive a free 1-week look at First Down Playbook. Call them at 512-814-6158 or visit them on their website or social media. Mention Coach and Coordinator Podcast or use the coupon code COACH24 to receive a $100 discount off the normal $700 First Down Playbook team membership price. Links and the phone number are in the show notes. As coaches, we know that some of the biggest hurdles to our team's success can come from off the field. Your team needs support to tackle the endless list of expenses, uniforms, training equipment, travel, and more. But raising that money can feel like a full-time job. Thankfully, there's Vertical Raise. Vertical Raise is the premier online fundraising platform using innovative technology to create the easiest and most efficient system available. Raise more money in less time with a local fundraising coach who works with your team every step of the way to customize the ideal fundraiser. With options for online donations, digital discount cards, premium product sales, and even spirit shops, Vertical Raise has top-of-the-line solutions for every fundraising style. To find out more, visit verticalraise.com and we'll get you connected with an exclusive offer on your first fundraiser. On today's podcast, we're focused on prepping the quarterback throughout the week, using analytics to do that, to better understand the data for your practice plan and game plan, and using technology to most efficiently teach your players. And joining me to discuss that is the offensive coordinator at Midwestern State, Billy Riebock. Coach, it's great to have you here on the podcast.
Keith, appreciate you having me on. And on behalf of all the coaches out there, I want to thank you for all you do for this profession. And I can tell you your podcast is a huge listen while on the road recruiting or even during the office hours. It's great.
I appreciate that. And I think this is a great topic today. And while we are focused on quarterbacks, I think there's a framework we're talking about here that really applies to all positions. Do you agree?
No question. No question. You know, the saying goes, if you got a quarterback, you got a chance, but obviously you need everything around them to make it work. And hopefully what we'll talk today is how we can make everybody better and utilize this technology to make that happen.
So when we look at how we evolve professionally, how we evolve as coaches, it never what it looks like when we first get started. We add new things to our workflow. We find ways to be efficient. We find ways to work smarter. And what you might be doing even a few years down the road could be completely different just because you've evolved it in that way. For you, inside this topic of preparing the quarterback, how has this changed over time?
One of my quarterbacks when I first started out at Quincy University as an offensive coordinator, Bobby Brenison, I call him, once a month or so, and we laugh. I say, man, I'm so sorry I screwed you up. And we laugh about it because knowing what I know now, hopefully you'd like to say things would have been way different. But I think, when you first start out, you try to think, one, you got all the answers, you can do everything, and every play's awesome. And then I think as you grow and mature and you get around, obviously, really smart coaches, and I think it's another key to that is finding those people that will mentor you and help you, I think is huge as well too. And then you learn like, hey, you can't do it all. You got to find out what you're really good at, play to your strengths, and then realize too, like we were talking about earlier, there's only so many hours in a day, and you really got to maximize that practice time with all the NCAA rules. And two, the toll that this game takes from a physicality standpoint on the body. A coach once told me, that there's only so many body blows that you can take, so you might as well use them when it counts on Saturday. And so it's maximizing that and not wasting any reps throughout the week.
Definitely. More than ever, really, this is a thinking man's game when you look at how much it's evolved and all the different things on both sides of the ball we do to stress and put pressure on the other side. And you have to be able to make split-second decisions. You have to be able to see things pre-snap to be able to get that done. But in starting with that, it is putting together a plan for your, in this case, your quarterbacks, but really even for your team, could be any position that is simple enough that it's going to be executed, that you can get the repetition you need, and at the same time still have enough answers, right? You don't want to go chasing ghosts.
Right.
So you want to have as tight of a package as possible, simple, yet enough answers to cover all the different situations you might have. So for you, how does data analytics, I know that's part of what you use in getting to talk to you beforehand, how does that play into this?
I think it starts in the off season. At Midwestern, we're about to start spring ball here, and it's doing a deep dive into situational football, but also your concepts, run and pass, and what you were really good at, and in what type of situations were these concepts utilized the best. And I think, like you said, that takes time, that takes research. You have to have a format with which to do that. And then once you discover that, and I'm guilty of it myself, you're like, man, I really like this. This is awesome. And then you go back and you're like, oh my gosh, we stunk at this. And that's constantly throughout the season doing that self-scout as well. So hopefully once you get to the end of the season, you don't have that feeling. I'll never forget this. When I was at Ball State under Pete Lembo and Rich Skrosky was the offensive coordinator, and we had this situation it was a third down situation in the red zone. And I kept noticing week to week, it was the same play over and over. And I was like, why don't we change that up or, something like that. As a GA, I'm going in there asking questions. And Rich pointed out to me, and he pulls out this huge book. I'll never forget it. It looked like a encyclopedia for those that can remember what those are. And he goes, hey, how many times has this situation occurred in the last 2 years? and that with that down and distance at this particular yard line, and it was once. He's like, so why am I going to have all these different plays for a situation and you go back in the last 5 years, it occurred 3 times. So he's like, we're going to pick whatever the best concept-wise, what we're great at, and that's what we're going to do for that situation, because it's utilizing, time on task, situational football. And that was that aha moment for me. And then once you get going with that, coming out of spring and, you're doing your summer installs, your growth and all of that, you have to, in my opinion, make sure that what you're doing has an answer for every situation throughout the course of a football game. Mike Clark, who is our head coach at Bridgewater, all-time winningest coach, unbelievable. And one of the first things he said to me, he's like, if our offensive system cannot answer and handle all the weather elements, all of the situations that come up in a game, then it's not complete. Putting that all together, sitting down as a staff, dividing responsibilities up, coming back and gathering the answers as well. And I think that's another huge part as well, when you have this time and it's everybody utilizing their resources to bring in different thoughts, ideas, and bring them to the table and hash it out and figure it out, and then using the numbers to help dictate what you're going to do, because like we've said, you can't do it all.
Definitely. When you're looking at it this time of year, you're heading into spring ball. You've put together an install for that. This is a new job for you, so you're looking at information from past years, trying to discern what might we be best at. So there's a premise going into this. How does that for you adjust as you start going, right? I'm sure you've laid out the entire install for spring, but nothing's static in the football world, right? It's always dynamic, always changing. You're, like you said, learning strengths, weaknesses, what you're good at, what you can build upon. So how does that process work for you as you go through spring ball?
Like you said, it's ever changing. You're constantly evaluating practice to practice. What concepts are working? Now I know, you're going against the same opponent practice to practice and you're facing your defense, but you can still gain great knowledge in terms of how the quarterback or certain players are picking up a certain concept just by the success rate, the efficiency of it. For us, like when Coach Maskell is putting us in different situations at Midwestern State, how are we responding to that? Always using the down and distance and judging, was that play successful? So you're getting a feel of what your players are good at. And obviously, like you said, that can always change. And then 2, during this time, kind of being fairly new, still trying to learn the conference. For us, we got a bunch of new defensive coordinators. So you're trying to figure out, okay, is what we're doing offensively, how's that going to correlate to what these defensive coordinators are trying to do against us, and have that plan. And then also in my time, I've kind of noticed this, whatever the hot trend is, defensively or offensively, you're going to start to see it. And it's reared its ugly head. Like just this past year when I was at A&M Commerce, you started to see creeping in that Iowa State 3 down, what they're trying to do. You're starting to see way more 5 down, at least we did in the Southland. So things like that, you're constantly studying and figuring out and making sure your scheme is fit to attack that.
I can think back to, as you were saying, it reminded me of high school days when things were different then. There was not everything on the internet that you could go and grab and learn from. Like you literally, we would always do this. Like if we're at the same clinic as an opponent, what clinics were they sitting in? We wanted to know what ideas they were taking away that we might see, because that's what it used to be limited to, really. I mean, you might go buy some DVDs or a book, but like primarily, like you were picking up things at clinics, and we would pay attention to that. So it is a process though, trying to figure out what might we see this year, what are the trends, right? And still, you can gather some of that information. You still see all the clinic lineups that are out there. You still now start to see, okay, what are people putting out there? What's being studied? What has the most attention? I mean, I pay attention to those trends all the time just in the work that I do right now. Right. So there are some ways to figure out, hey, we need to, regardless of what we've seen so far, we need to think about how we might face these different types of things. Like you said, an example you gave, the Iowa State.
Right. We're creatures of habit, right? And if you see somebody else having a lot of success doing something, it's going to make you investigate it and research it. And you got to figure out too, and that's not to say that you don't do it, but you got to figure out how it can adapt to what you're doing and stay true to your identity and beliefs. And, more importantly, can your kids do it successfully? Because it doesn't matter how good it looks on paper or in that clinic or Visio, whatever. If if Billy and Johnny and Timmy aren't executing it, we're all in trouble.
And I think that's a good shift in the conversation to that player development side of it. And again, for our purposes, focusing on the quarterback. I know you like the feedback. You want to understand not only what you're seeing on film, but what you're able to see these guys are learning from the classroom. So Google Docs, quizzes, those things are part of what you use. Talk to us about those different methodologies and tools that you use.
The main thing with utilizing the technology that I'm bringing up is predominantly it's free. And when you're at some of these smaller level programs, you got to utilize your resources to the best of your ability. So the thing with Google Docs is, everybody has it, and we can send out these interactive quizzes, so to speak, straight to their phones by using like the Go Army Edge technology to create like a 3D play. You can put it against a defense on air. It could be as simple as name this formation, or we can talk, hey, where would the point be in this particular defensive look when we're running this particular play? You go down the line, and we try to keep ours, 5 to 10 minutes where they can do it as they're walking to class. And then it provides us, then that self-populates. We get instant feedback into what they're doing. And the main thing is you got to get your players to believe too, hey, answer it honestly. This isn't a group, because I want to know, hey, if my quarterback is really struggling in this particular look, or in this case question, then I know when in our limited amount of meeting time, this is what I really need to focus on. I hate being inefficient. I hate wasting time. I hate people wasting my time. So this allows us to eliminate that, and we can best utilize our time to maximize our results. And then two, you get this especially from young players. Yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. They just yes you to death. And then you get out on that field in front of the boss, and things might not be going as great as, you thought they were going to be coming out of that meeting, right? Well, now they feel more comfortable. They can get that through to you in a different way, that, hey, they might need help in this particular area, because it's going to show up on the quiz. And then in utilizing the Army Edge as well from a playbook, because, I used to be, in our progression of installing, you'd get it on a paper copy, then you'd have a video clip, and then you'd go through a walkthrough. Then you would have your individual relative to that install. Then you'd have your group. Then you'd have your team, and then you would, watch it. And that would kind of be the progression of install. Well, now, utilizing not only the quizzes, but also the Army Edge technology, we're putting that up right after the paper copy. So they're getting that interactive experience. I think the more you can get in this day and age, these players to interact and get up and move and have to speak. And from a quarterback perspective, like, we'll use it where that technology is up there, and then they're seeing the defense and they're having to, call out the point, hey, what's the check here? And they're getting comfortable using their voice, because a lot of times these quarterbacks, I'll never forget this. We used to huddle a little bit, and having them read a play from the wristband, like, that was an art, and we had to practice that. And this Army Edge allowed us to do that. So it can be utilized a lot of different ways, I can tell you that.
Well, and I think as you're talking about it, one of the unique things about this versus utilizing film is they're in their perspective of what it looks like for them on the field.
Right.
They never see a press box view. End zone view is good for a lot of things, and certainly can train some guys, but also it's still a little bit limited in what you're seeing there. And now you're in a perspective that you could put that camera very easily right into where their helmet is, so that these guys can see the entire defense with whatever, like you said, using it to the mic point. Maybe you're looking for coverage indicators, all those kinds of things that really help them in the process mentally, gives them those extra reps, right? That's such a key to doing this, is now that we have technology that gives them a different perspective than the different ones we were giving them with the game film.
Oh, yeah. And I think another added element to that is that you're getting all these extra reps, because they can get as many as they want. They can do this in their apartment. You can do this in the meeting room, wherever. But the risk of injury And the limiting of the physicality on the body is huge because you only have so many bullets in there. So that's where what we've found has been awesome. And two, it helps those guys that aren't getting a ton of reps as the season goes along to utilize and develop and then be ready when they're called upon.
The thing about it too, and Caleb Collins brought this up, outside linebacker coach at Baylor, about that this is just a mouse click to reset. So, the efficiency of trying to get a scout team out there, one, usually you're going through a walkthrough, you're using your own guys, which means they're not learning, they're serving the offense.
No doubt, right.
That's all eliminated. But also to reset and get more reps or to redo something is literally the click of a mouse and everything's lined up again and you go through the process again.
No question. You're helping those young guys develop. And two, it's like, as humans, we all want to be loved. I don't care what anybody says. And when you're one of those guys, those developmental guys, and you're getting up for the early morning lift, you're going through that grind, I got to go do scout team and all that. And they do a great job. They accept their role. That's part of being on the team. But this also allows you to take that time as a coach without sacrificing for the game plan or for that opponent that week and put it into that player that might not be ready for, a year or two down the road, whatever. And I don't care. I've coached Division III football. I've coached Division I. When you're in these smaller levels, the retention, and the more you can keep these guys around, your chances of winning go up when you got seniors and juniors out on that football field. So if you can keep these guys around and have them ready, it'll benefit you in the end.
Yeah, definitely. It's a culture builder. When I can take the technology and remove these guys from just serving the team and actually they're learning as well, that just helps people feel much more part of what is going on.
Right.
That they feel like, hey, I know I'm not playing yet, but you're developing me too.
Exactly. And at Commerce this past season, I can tell you, our last two games, I was starting a wide receiver at quarterback. And that was not by plan. I can tell you that. So that's where that Go Army Edge, all that technology and the development really came into play and unfortunately was needed.
Yeah, I know a big part of the advancement of that Go Army Edge technology, and I remember back when we first started using it, it was literally Google Cardboard, right? The little cardboard.
Okay. Yeah,
you would slide your iPhone or your phone into, and I mean, it was very primitive. But now the Oculus, which is very affordable. I don't think they did have stuff like it at the time. It didn't incorporate it, but it was also very expensive. I know I bought my son one, I don't know, around $300 for. He uses it as a baseball player. Okay. And I put it on, and I'm looking at the program he's using to take actual at bats against a pitcher. It's like, oh my God, that's incredible, right? And you now can use this technology to develop your quarterbacks, use it with offensive line, running backs, really any position for you with your quarterbacks. I know you mentioned you use the Oculus, so what parts of the game plan or preparation or development are you using this for?
So when we game plan, our whole game plan is transferred into Go Army Edge. So then the kids have it in that 3D version. And, and that's another thing you talk about, hey, what we're doing. So you're developing that 3D playbook right now. So then you can just grab and pull as the season gets there and you make adjustments and so on and so forth. So it might sound time consuming, but it really isn't. So then once they get that 3D form, then we'll take that opponent's defense and we'll incorporate that, and then we'll introduce it to them. It's that whole part whole theory. We'll break it down situation like, okay, here's all our third down in this particular distance calls, and this is what they've shown, and we'll give them those looks. So not only are they getting that at practice, they're getting that throughout the week. And we like to stay, obviously, with our quarterbacks and other positions as well, try to get it to them a day ahead so then they can experience it and we can go through it and answer any questions. Hey, any problems that might come up, suggestions, or hey, coach, why are you thinking this? To try to eliminate that uncertainty. That's mainly from the quarterback perspective, giving it to them in situations in that regard. And then with the O-lineman, we use it a ton with blitz pickup seeing the different movements and all that. I think that is awesome. Running backs as well. Wide receivers, kind of like you gave me some great ideas how to use it better in terms of seeing that holy trinity, the apex, the corner, safety, how we release and leverage a corners, things like that. But I think no matter what position you play out on the football field, it can be utilized. It just makes things so more efficient. And also, I'll tell you this, it brings up in my opinion, more discussion than maybe there would be, because now the kids have time to digest all the information and be like, oh, okay, well, coach, I'm seeing this, let's talk. And a lot of times they could have some great ideas that just make things better and more efficient in that regard.
Yeah, when you look at the technology, what you do is you can you take what you put in the playbook, and then you can create reps. And what I love about it, it literally is like copy paste function once you have it in.
Yeah.
You can create a duplicate, change a few lines, because you're seeing the different coverage, defense, rotation, whatever it is. Very efficient to do that. But then you essentially can set up drills, or in this case, these guys can go through all these different plays. And I think, you look at, again, what time you have, meeting time, whatever. Maybe you're spending 15 minutes with your backup quarterback. The beauty of the Oculus is you can also project that to your TV, your screen, to see what they're looking at, right? And really evaluate were your eyes in the right place, right? Now you're starting to see some of those things too. I mean, it really is like you have to figure it out, because you can't just add things to your workflow and expect that everything's going to be efficient. Like, what are you willing to give up to use something new that maybe gets them a little bit deeper? I think that's a balancing act. That's going to be an art definitely moving forward for coaches as they start to use these new technologies. But the benefits, I think, are huge.
No question. And to kind of piggyback off what you said, it's kind of that, divide and conquer, I think, amongst our staff. Like, everybody's got their own area of expertise. And then once you find that expert, so to speak, then they can kind of teach everybody else, get everybody on the same page, because those questions are going to arise. I mean, I'm telling you, I'm no Steve Jobs, but you learn quickly and you can figure it out. And that's the beauty of something like Go Army, is that technology. It's, even when you mess up, you can still be right. And it's not like you have to start back at ground zero. That's the beauty of it for me, is that you're constantly able to start from a certain level and keep going.
For sure. I know I spent a lot of time on the podcast talking to coaches about situational awareness, beyond our normal situations. There's a lot of these things that come up in games that are rare. Admittedly, I think most of them happen on special teams, but we'll also have some of those things on offense. And you think about, where do I get extra reps for this? How do I prepare my guys? That is really a recognition thing, and understanding that here's the situation, or here's what could happen, that we handle it that way. I've talked, I think it was Steve Hauser and Teach Tape series we did about using walkthroughs throughout the year to do it. But now when you're teaching, especially here in spring, those can be installed. Those could be reviewed weekly, whatever they might be. I know we have a whole list of them. I'll link Dan Swanstrom's. He went over offense, defense, and special teams and some of the things he did. But now it's looking at those things that I don't have the extra reps for. Or we were talking about in blitz pickup as an example. Maybe they showed a certain pressure a couple times. If they did, it would be problematic. How much do I work during the week against maybe something I only saw 2 times? Well, I'm going to steal the time over here with the technology.
Right. That's, I can't say it any better than that. And I think for us, look at, the situation like a last play series. Hey, so much time left from this yard line, from this yard, and we rep it and do all that stuff throughout the week. But I think I'll be honest, we can't get everybody in on that, 1s, 2s, sometimes 3s, whatever. So this allows us that Go Army edge with that technology to get that done, just like you said with the blitz pickups. So then, like, how often are we going to get up there and work Hail Mary lateral? You know what I mean?
Right.
Things like that. So you still got to be prepared, because those things can come up, and this just, like I said, allows you to get that done without wasting time, so to speak.
Well, Coach, to wrap up, we've talked a lot of the different technology, how those can be used, but let's put it within a framework of a game week. So thinking through, you doing your game planning, the data, the analytics, the technology that you use to prepare your players, in addition to practice, what does that week look like for you in terms of the technology used to prepare your players?
We'll utilize that really starting Sunday night. Players are off. They'll get those quizzes sent from the game plan and with the various kind of odd looks that we have to address for that upcoming opponent. And then, Monday, let me put it like this. Monday through Friday, our players will have Google Doc quizzes sent out. So they're getting those every day. And then in terms of their access to Go Army Edge 3D cut-ups, we'll start obviously with our open field script for Monday's practice, where they'll have that and they can visually see that against defense, followed by a live clip. And then from there, as we get into Tuesday, Wednesday, you're looking red zone, third down situations, blitz pickup every day, utilizing that. And that technology is showing that day in and day out. And it's coming in, and they're getting that throughout different parts of the day. So like if, we're doing third down on a Wednesday, they'll get that script with the drawings in a 3D form with video sometime early morning. So then they have that and they can review it. So they're not seeing it for the first time in a meeting and then out on the practice field. So that's kind of how it goes situationally in that regard. And then when you get to Thursday, it's kind of like I was a big believer. I did a lot better on open book tests than closed. So when we get to Thursday, we're taking all those cut-ups and kind of having that ultimate review and rocking and rolling and doing that on Friday as well to prepare us to hopefully have great success on Saturday.
Coach, I appreciate you giving us a peek into your week, the technology, your workflow for preparation of your quarterbacks, and certainly wish you and the Mustangs best of luck here in the 2023 season.
Keith, thank you so much. Appreciate you having us on. And again, thank you for all you do. It's a heck of a tool that you got going here, and one that I can tell you is utilized by many.
Here's today's winning edge, some takeaways and ideas for implementation. 1. Coach Riebock's story about asking Coach Skrosky why they don't change up plays in a certain situation made me recall what I've learned in the past. Know how much you need by utilizing and studying the data of your past seasons. I highly recommend Brian Billick's book, Developing an Offensive Game Plan. He lays out step by step what the process is for determining how much offense you need. In the book he writes, regardless of what type of team you coach, high school, college, or youth, you must think on 3 levels: yearly, weekly, and game day. Each level has very set parameters as to how much offense will actually be run in any given segment. The more you can overlap the amount of total offense you can carry versus the amount that can be effectively practiced, the more effective the offense you actually run on game day will be. 2. Constantly evolve by examining how you are teaching and coaching. Ask yourself if you have the best methods, the best tools, the best technology to prepare your players. I heard a quote from retired Army General Eric Shinseki. If you don't like change, you're going to like irrelevance even less. That's where we are as professionals as the game becomes more and more dynamic, and we must find the ways to best develop our players. How we developed when we were players may no longer be relevant to the players that we coach today. And the final one is use an expert system to implement new technology and workflow. It reminds me of an African proverb. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. This approach gives you the benefits of moving quickly and also going far with new technology. That expert that you designate should be the one to learn it and then efficiently teach it and help the others on the staff to troubleshoot it. He can move quickly, and then in that way, you will more efficiently implement new tools into your workflow. Please go to coachandcoordinator.com to sign up for our newsletter, the weekly tip sheet. We share the best ideas from the past week's episode, recommend resources, and share our featured episodes. Also follow me on Twitter at Coach K. Grabowski.